Hi guys, welcome to another art video. In this one I'm doing my first proper A4 gouache painting. I don't have much experience with gouache. I've played around with it a little bit in my sketchbook, but not properly. Unfortunately, the brushes I had were very cheap. I think they cost me £1 for the pack of them, and as a result the bristles kept falling out. So I've got artwork full of bristles, which is lovely. I tried to pick out as many as possible, but I struggled. I'm learning to mix paint and get the different colours that I want with the different paints. The paints are also like quite cheap gouache from the works. I think it's £3 for the set of 12 or something that I've got. It's quite hard to work out how much paint of the colour to create to fill the area, and there were a few times that I left gaps, changed the colour of the paint on my palette, and then realised I had to go back and fill in those gaps with a colour that no longer existed on my palette, which was, I had to do quite a lot of blending and mixing in. So I've done like a darker colour, blue for the deeper sea, and then as it gets closer to the shore I'm adding in this lighter colour, but I forgot to fill in the top bit, which should have been dark blue. The reference photo for this piece is from Unsplash. I just searched for Cornwall, and there was a nice image that came up that I thought I would have a go at painting. In quite a few areas here you see me trying to stretch what little paint I have mixed together to fill all the areas I need to, but we're making it work. I kept going back in and blending things. I was trying to get used to how much water I needed to have on the brush and how much I needed to mix in with the paint. It didn't go down as smoothly as I had expected. Having seen other people paint with gouache, they make it look so nice and smooth and clean, but I struggled. I think partly because of my brushes and partly because I'm new to it. And you can see the corner of my glasses there on the screen, unfortunately. I had to get a bit closer to see the details. So after doing all the blues, I moved on to the brown of the cliffs. It was quite hard to be accurate with the brushes that I've got. They're a bit stiff and hard to, I don't know how to explain it, but they were hard to use. So since making this piece I have invested in some new brushes and hopefully they'll be better. See, I've lightened up the brown here to make the second layer of cliff face, forgetting that I need that darker brown for some other areas. I used to be so precious with my artwork and would really worry when I went over the edges of what I had drawn, but as you can see there, I went a little bit over the edge and just covered it up and changed the outline. I'm learning to be less precious with my artwork and just kind of be a bit looser with it. It doesn't have to exactly represent what's in the reference photo. It just has to be sort of inspired by it. So that's something I'm learning and working on. I didn't have much of a plan when it came to doing this piece, like how I should layer things and what I wanted everything to look like, other than just be sort of representative of the reference photo. But I was sort of figuring it out as I went along. I forgot that I had to add the water in that side, so that water that side is slightly brighter than the other. And I had some issues trying to get the paint out of some of the tubes. I think this is me trying to remix the darker colour again. Because I haven't done the rocks that are out at sea, but obviously it ended up being a lot darker, so I then go back in and work on some of the other areas to make it match. In this bit I'm trying to add a little bit of texture. In the reference photo this is all stones. It's kind of a beach but not really a beach, but yeah, so it's just basically all stones. So I tried to like leave a little bit of texture in there with the paint, let it build up and just smush it about basically. And there was a darker line of stones that went through the middle. Then wanted to add a bit of texture to this front piece of cliff face. It was made up of like broken chalky rocks, so I added in the darker elements to sort of show the contrast. Then it was on to the greens, a colour I hadn't used yet out of my colour palette actually. I'll be really interested to see how much easier it is to work with the paint when I've got these better paint brushes. I have done one piece with one of the brushes so far and it's turned out alright, and it was much easier, but I was using more watered down paint, so it was quite easy. Just building up the foreground here in a lighter green. This is where there's going to be a load of grass and flowers. Again, I didn't really have enough paint mix to fill this whole area, so I keep adding water to it and trying to mix in more paint without changing the colour too much. I don't know how people do it where they get just enough or more. I don't know, I feel like I'm probably quite tight, so I don't want to waste any paint, so I'd rather have just enough than way too much. I wasn't happy with the colour of the land that was behind the furthest away cliff face. In the reference image, the whole image is a lot paler than the colours that I'm putting down, but yeah, it was quite a pale blue, but I think the colour I used originally didn't really look like land, so. In the reference image there was like a wave that just looked like a straight line, so trying to recreate that with the white paint it was really difficult. So I end up working into that later a little bit more because it just doesn't look right with that random line there. I'm using the white paint with hardly any water in it at this point, just kind of trying to make it pop, and then also using it as like with the dry brush to sort of make it a bit streaky and quite loose. I think it worked. Then I started adding some more water and just went a bit mad trying to make that whole area lighter. Oh, so now I'm adding in the grass and stuff at the front in the foreground. Some of the lines that I could get were really nice and thin and exactly what I wanted, and then other lines the paintbrush just splayed out and made a thick bit of grass. It was okay because I was building up the layers anyway and a lot of that got covered up, but when I was doing the final layer on top it was annoying when that happened, and I had to be so much slower and more controlled with what I was doing. But I think it worked out in the end. I think this is the point where my phone, which is what I'm using to record this video, starts to give up with the old video. It just kept switching off and I didn't realise, so there's quite a chunk of me adding in all these details that doesn't get recorded. But it was around this point that I stopped and I wasn't sure if I wanted to add any more to it. I was quite happy with how it was looking. I knew it needed more, but I was scared to add more to it. I didn't want to ruin it. I didn't want to overdo it, but yeah. I sent a picture to my boyfriend and I was like, this is how I'm feeling about it, and he was like, well, why don't you just take a few pictures and take a few pictures as it is and then keep going. And I was like, yeah, true. So I took some pictures that were like Instagram worthy so I could add to my feed for this art challenge, and then I kept going with it. And I'm so glad that I did, because the detail that I added afterwards really made the piece. My hand, it just keeps hovering in there, and just, I don't even know what I'm doing with my hand at this point. Just, what is that finger? As I added each layer of grass, I was adding more yellow to it to get it to go lighter and lighter and just build it up. The grass in the front of the reference photo was really quite light at this point. There was some really light yellow bits in there, so just adding that in. This is before I added the extra details, but how satisfying is that peel? So this was at the point that I took the pictures of it, and then I went in and added some more. So I was quite pleased with how the foreground looked with those little white flowers in there. Excuse the messy desk. And then this is it with all the details. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. See you next time.